They gave him a standing ovation for work that took me 3 months of sleepless nights to create. Every single executive in that room was on their feet applauding my analysis, my insights, my breakthrough, presented under his name. And the worst part? He looked directly at me while they clapped, not with guilt, not with shame, with a smile that said, "What are you going to do about it?" Here's what I did. I watched. I waited. And when he got arrogant enough to make one fatal mistake 6 weeks later, I made sure everyone knew exactly whose work it really was. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how a friendly handshake on my first day turned into the biggest betrayal of my career, and how the one mistake he made while covering his tracks brought his entire house of cards crashing down. My name is Alex Morgan. 6 months ago, I learned that sometimes the most dangerous person in the office is the one everyone thinks is your friend. And this is the story of how my coworker stole my work, then made one mistake that cost him everything. If you've ever felt overlooked, undervalued, or had someone take credit for your hard work, this story is for you. And if you want to hear more stories about standing up for yourself in the workplace, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, because what I'm about to share could save your career one day. Now, let me take you back to where it all started. It was March 12th when I walked through the glass doors of Apex Strategic Solutions for my first day, a mid-sized consulting firm in Seattle, 23 floors up with a view of the Sound that made you forget about your crushing student loan debt. Almost. I had a master's degree in predictive analytics, zero real-world experience, and enough nervous energy to power the entire building. I needed this job the way a drowning person needs air. My bank account had $300 in it. My rent was due in 2 weeks. Failure was not an option. They set me up at a desk by the window, small mercy, and that's when I met him. Ethan Blackwood. 6'2", perfectly tailored suit, smile that could sell ice to someone in Antarctica. He'd been at Apex for 5 years, which made him practically royalty in a company where the average tenure was 18 months. People called him the closer because he had a gift for making clients say yes. Alex Morgan, right? He extended his hand, firm grip, eye contact that lasted exactly the right amount of time. Welcome to the battlefield. The what? I asked. He laughed. Battlefield. Sorry, I always call it that. Consulting is war, my friend. But don't worry, I've got your back. Famous last words. Our director was a woman named Diana Chen, 52 years old, started as an intern and clawed her way to the top through sheer brilliance and an ability to spot bullshit from 3 rooms away. She terrified me. She terrified everyone. In my first team meeting, she didn't waste time with prelataries. Morgan, not Alex, just Morgan. You're on client retention. We're bleeding accounts like a stuck pig, and nobody knows why. I want predictive models, root cause analysis, and a roadmap to fix it. You've got 3 months. Questions? My mouth was dry. No, ma'am. Good. Don't disappoint me. As we filed out, Ethan caught up with me in the hallway. Hey, don't let Diana scare you. She does that to everyone. Look, he lowered his voice conspiratorially. I've been here a while. I know how things work. Let me send you some resources, templates, frameworks, tips for managing up. Consider it a welcome gift. That afternoon, my inbox dinged. 8 attachments from Ethan, presentation templates, analysis frameworks, even a document titled Diana Chen, a Survival Guide. I thought I'd hit the lottery. A mentor who actually wanted to help. God, I was an idiot. The first month was brutal. I worked 14-hour days, weekends included. I lived on coffee and takeout, my apartment becoming just a place to shower and change clothes. The retention problem was worse than anyone realized. We weren't losing a few clients here and there. We were hemorrhaging them systematically, and it had been invisible because it happened slowly, like carbon monoxide poisoning. I started finding patterns in the chaos. Certain client profiles churned at predictable intervals, specific service failures kept recurring, and nobody had noticed that when our account managers left, their clients followed within 90 days. This wasn't just data, this was a smoking gun. Ethan started visiting my desk more often. At first, it was casual. How's it going? While holding his coffee. Then it became regular check-ins. Then he started asking to see my work. "This is really impressive, Alex," he'd say, leaning over my shoulder to look at my screen. His cologne was expensive. Everything about him was expensive. "You've got a real talent for this. Hey, mind if I look at your methodology? I might have some suggestions for optimization." I was flattered. Here was the golden boy of Apex Strategic Solutions taking an interest in my work, offering to help, being a mentor. So I shared everything. Every spreadsheet, every model, every finding, every late-night breakthrough. I gave him complete access because I trusted him. And trust, as I was about to learn, is the sharpest knife someone can use to stab you in the back. The weeks blurred together. April became May, my analysis was getting sharper. I'd identified not just what was wrong, but why it was wrong, and more importantly, how to fix it. 3 specific interventions that could reduce churn by at least 30%. This was career-making work. Ethan was impressed. He told me so constantly. "Alex, this is going to change everything for you. When you present this to the exec team, you're going to blow their minds." The presentation was scheduled for June 9th. Diana wanted a full deck, comprehensive findings, clear recommendations, implementation roadmap. This was my moment to prove I belonged here, to show that hiring a fresh graduate wasn't a mistake. I worked on that presentation like my life depended on it, because, in a way, it did. Every slide was perfect. Every chart told a story. Every word was chosen with precision. I rehearsed it 30 times. I knew it forwards and backwards. I could have delivered it in my sleep. On June 8th, the night before the presentation, I was in the office at 10 p.m. doing final polish. The floor was empty except for the cleaning crew and one other light down the hall. Ethan's light. He walked by, saw me hunched over my laptop, and stopped. "Still at it?" he asked. "Final touches," I said, not looking up. "Want this to be perfect." "Mind if I take a look? Fresh eyes might catch something you missed." I hesitated. Something in my gut twisted. A warning I didn't know how to interpret. But then I thought about all his help over the past 3 months. All the advice, all the encouragement. "Sure," I said. "Let me send it to you." I sent the presentation at 10:23 p.m. The timestamp on that email would later become the most important piece of evidence in my life. At the time, it felt like just another collaboration with a helpful colleague. I left the office at 10:45 p.m., feeling good. Nervous, but good. Ready. I had no idea. I just handed him the weapon he'd use to destroy me. I arrived at the office at 6:30 a.m. on June 9th. The presentation was at 2 p.m., but I wanted time to center myself, run through it one more time in the empty conference room, make sure the technology worked. Walking past Diana's office, I noticed her door was open, which was unusual this early. I heard voices inside. Low, serious. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I heard my name, and I froze. "Morgan's analysis is solid," Diana's voice. "Really solid. 3 months, and we finally have answers. I'm thinking this could fast-track them to senior analyst." My heart nearly exploded. Senior analyst. That was a promotion that took most people 2 years to achieve. Then Ethan's voice cut through my euphoria like a blade. "Actually, Diana, I need to be straight with you about something. About Morgan's work." Everything inside me went cold. "What about it?" Diana's tone shifted immediately, suspicious. "Look, I've been mentoring Alex pretty heavily these past 3 months. The work is good, don't misunderstand me, but a lot of the methodology, the analytical frameworks, the strategic approach, that came from our collaboration, from my guidance." I couldn't breathe. The hallway tilted. "Are you telling me this isn't Morgan's work?" Diana's voice was sharp now. No, Alex definitely contributed significantly, but I think we need to be honest about attribution here. This was a collaborative effort, a mentoring situation, and given that we're presenting to the C-suite today, it might be better if I take the lead. I can speak to the strategic implications and field the executive level questions. Alex is brilliant with data, but still developing the business acumen for that level of conversation. Silence. Long, terrible silence. The presentation is at 2, Diana finally said. You'll lead it, but Morgan should be there. It's still their data. Absolutely, Ethan said smoothly. Of course, team effort. I don't remember walking to my desk. I don't remember the next hour. I just remember sitting there, staring at nothing, my entire world collapsing. At 8:47 a.m., Diana sent a company-wide email. Update to today's executive presentation. Ethan Blackwood will be presenting the client retention analysis, supported by Alex Morgan. Supported by. Like I was his assistant. Like I'd just been running errands while he did the real thinking. I wanted to storm into Diana's office and scream the truth. But what truth could I prove? Ethan had been CC'd on my emails. He'd reviewed my models. He'd provided guidance. On paper, it looked exactly like what he was claiming, a senior employee mentoring a junior one. And I was the nobody, the new hire with no track record. He was Ethan Blackwood, the closer, the man who'd brought in 3 major accounts this quarter alone. Who would believe me? I spent the morning in a fog, answering emails mechanically, smiling when people walked by, dying inside. At 1:55 p.m., I walked into the executive conference room. The space was designed to intimidate. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a table that could seat 20, leather chairs that probably cost more than my monthly salary. The entire C-suite was there. CEO Rebecca Hartman, CFO Thomas Park, COO Jennifer Walsh, and 5 other senior leaders. Ethan was already there, my laptop connected to the projector. My slides, my data, my 3 months of life. His name in the corner where mine should have been. I sat in a chair along the wall, literally in the background, literally supporting cast. And then he began. Thank you all for being here today. Over the past 3 months, I've been conducting a deep dive analysis into our client retention challenges, and what I've discovered is going to fundamentally change how we approach client relationships. Every word was mine. Every insight I'd had at 2 a.m. staring at data until my eyes burned. Every connection I'd made between variables that nobody else had seen. He delivered it flawlessly, confidently, like he'd lived with this data for months, like these discoveries were his midnight revelations. He was brilliant, charismatic, commanding. The executives were mesmerized. A few times he gestured toward me. Alex did excellent work extracting and organizing the data for this analysis. Alex's technical skills really helped build out the models I designed. Always the grunt work. Always the mechanical parts. Never the thinking, never the strategy, never the insights. CEO Rebecca Hartman asked a question about implementation timeline. Ethan answered it perfectly with words I'd written in my presentation notes. CFO Thomas Park asked about cost projections. Ethan walked him through the numbers I'd calculated. When he finished, there was a moment of silence. Then Rebecca Hartman stood up. Everyone else followed. A standing ovation. Ethan, this is exceptional work, Rebecca said, shaking his hand. This is exactly the kind of strategic thinking that separates good consultants from great ones. Diana, I want Ethan leading the implementation of these recommendations. This deserves a significant resource commitment. Diana nodded. I was thinking the same thing. Ethan, put together a proposal for a new client success division. I want you heading it up. Full team, full budget. My work, my insights, his promotion. And then, Ethan looked directly at me across the room. Our eyes met. He smiled. Not a guilty smile, not an apologetic smile. A smile that said, "I won." That smile is burned into my memory. That smile told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was calculated, deliberate, planned. He'd stolen my work, and he wanted me to know it. The meeting adjourned. Executives congratulated Ethan. He shook hands, made jokes, basked in the praise. I slipped out of the room and went to the bathroom, locked myself in a stall, and for the first time since I was a kid, I cried at work. That weekend was the darkest 48 hours of my professional life. Saturday, I didn't get out of bed until 3 p.m. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. Every conversation with Ethan, every time I'd shared my work, every moment I trusted him. How had I been so stupid? Sunday morning, I called my older sister Rachel. She's a prosecutor in Portland, smart, tough, doesn't take crap from anyone. "He stole your work?" Her voice went ice cold. "Alex, you need to report this to HR immediately, like Monday morning, first thing." "And tell them what? That I shared my work with a senior colleague who was mentoring me, and now I'm upset he presented it? Rachel, on paper, it looks like collaboration." "But it wasn't collaboration. You did the work." "I know that. You know that. But can I prove it in a way that matters? I'm 3 months into this job. Ethan's been there 5 years. He's their golden boy. I'm nobody." "So you're just going to let him get away with it?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Maybe I just keep my head down, do my job, hope it doesn't happen again." "That's not you talking. That's fear. And fear makes people into victims." Her words stung because they were true. Monday morning, 8:47 a.m. Diana sent me a meeting request for 9 a.m. No subject line, just "see me." My stomach dropped. Was I being fired? Had Ethan convinced them I was incompetent? I knocked on Diana's door at exactly 9 a.m., my hands shaking. "Sit." She didn't look up from her screen. I sat. She finished whatever she was typing, then turned to face me. Her expression was unreadable. The executive team was very impressed with Friday's presentation. "That's good," I managed. "Ethan is being promoted to Vice President of Client Success, new division, reporting directly to the COO. He'll be building a team to implement the retention strategy." I nodded, my throat tight. "He requested you for his team," Diana continued. "Said you have strong technical capabilities and good attention to detail." Technical capabilities, attention to detail, like I was a particularly reliable photocopier. "I'll be honest with you, Morgan." Diana leaned back, studying me. "I had higher expectations for you coming in. I thought you might be ready for more strategic work. But after seeing how much guidance you needed from Ethan on this project, I think you need more time to develop, more seasoning before you're ready to operate at that level." Every word was a knife, not because Diana was cruel, but because she believed she was being fair, being honest, giving me good feedback. She had no idea she was praising my work while telling me I wasn't good enough to claim it. "I understand," I said. My voice was surprisingly steady. "I'll keep working hard." "Good. Ethan will be in touch about team structure." I walked out of her office feeling hollow. The next few weeks were torture. Ethan was everywhere, in meetings with executives, being profiled in the company newsletter, getting congratulated by colleagues. And I was on his team, sitting in meetings where he presented his vision for client retention, watching him bask in praise for work I'd done. He was careful with me, always complimentary in a way that felt like a pat on the head. "Great data work, Alex. Thanks for the technical support on this project. Alex's technical skills really helped build out the models I designed." Always the executor, never the thinker. Never the strategy, never the insights. I started reaching out to recruiters, updated my resume, took calls during lunch breaks. I was ready to leave, ready to cut my losses and start over somewhere else. But something stopped me. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was stubbornness. Maybe it was Rachel's voice in my head. Fear makes people into victims. I decided to stay, to watch, to wait. Because people who get too comfortable always make mistakes. And Ethan was getting very, very comfortable. Now, before I tell you about the mistake that brought everything crashing down, let me say this. If you're going through something similar right now, if someone is taking credit for your work, if you feel invisible in your own career, don't give up. Document everything, keep records, and most importantly, trust that the truth has a way of coming out. If this story resonates with you, hit that subscribe button, because standing up for yourself is something we should all learn how to do. Okay, back to the story, because this is where things get interesting. The mistake came in late July, 6 weeks after Ethan's triumphant presentation. The executive team wanted a progress report. How was the client success initiative going? Were the recommendations working? What results could we show? Ethan was running the division, but the actual analytical work was being done by me and 2 other analysts, Maya Rodriguez and David Park. We'd been implementing the recommendations, tracking metrics, running new models. The results were mixed. Some interventions were working beautifully. Client satisfaction was up in 2 segments. We'd retained 3 at-risk accounts. But other recommendations weren't performing. Churn had actually increased in one category. The situation was more complex than the initial analysis had suggested. I wrote a comprehensive progress report, honest, thorough, acknowledging wins and losses, recommending course corrections. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. Ethan called a team meeting on a Wednesday afternoon to review my draft on the projection screen. His expression darkened with each slide. "This is too negative," he said finally. "It's accurate," I replied carefully. "Accurate and strategic are 2 different things, Alex." His friendly demeanor was slipping. "The Client Success Initiative was funded based on my recommendations. They're expecting to see success, results, wins." "We have wins," Maya interjected. She was in her 40s, had been with Apex for 8 years, not someone who scared easily. "But we also have challenges. That's normal for any new initiative." "I don't need a lecture on what's normal," Ethan snapped. Then, catching himself, he softened his tone. "Look, I appreciate the thoroughness, but we need to reframe this. Lead with the positives, position the challenges as opportunities for optimization, downplay the metrics that aren't performing." The room went quiet. "You want us to misrepresent the data?" asked David slowly. "I want you to be strategic about how you present it. That's what we do here. We're consultants. We tell stories with data. And right now, this story is," he gestured at the screen, "career limiting for everyone in this room." "Including you," Maya said quietly. His eyes went cold. "Especially me," which means especially all of you. The exec team invested in this initiative because they trusted my analysis. If we go to them now and say it's not working, what does that make me look like? What does that make this team look like? "It makes us look honest," I said. Everyone turned to look at me. "We're 6 weeks into implementation," I continued, my heart pounding. "Nobody expects perfection this early, but if we manipulate the data now, if we hide the real problems, they'll just get worse. And when they finally explode, because they will, it'll be much worse than admitting we need to adjust course now." Ethan stared at me, really stared. The mask was completely gone now. "Let me be very clear," he said, voice low and dangerous. "I'm not asking for your opinion on reporting strategy, Alex. I'm telling you how this report needs to be written. You can either be a team player, or you can be someone who had a very short career at Apex Strategic Solutions. Your choice." There it was, the threat, explicit, undeniable. Maya and David were looking at their laptops, faces carefully neutral. They had families, mortgages. They couldn't afford to make waves. But I was young, unattached. $300 in my bank account on my first day had become $5,000. Not much, but enough to survive for a month or 2 if things went bad. And I was so tired of being afraid. "I can't do it," I said. "Excuse me?" I stood up. "I can't misrepresent the data. I won't. If you want to manipulate this report, you'll have to do it yourself." I walked out. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely open my laptop back at my desk. I just committed professional suicide. Ethan would make sure I was gone by Friday. Everything I'd worked for, destroyed. But I couldn't. I just couldn't watch him lie again. 5 minutes later, Maya appeared at my desk. "That took guts," she said quietly, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. More guts than I had. "I just ended my career," I said. "Maybe," she admitted, "but maybe you did something smarter than you realize." "How is this smart?" Maya smiled grimly. "Because he just showed his hand. He just proved in front of witnesses that he's willing to manipulate data to protect himself. And Alex, people remember things like that." She was right. Within hours, the story spread through the analytics team, not gossiped loudly, but whispered, shared. People started asking questions. Questions like, how much of that original retention analysis was really Ethan's work? Questions like, why does he need Alex to write his reports if he's such a strategic genius? The whispers became a current. The current became a tide. And Ethan, confident in his untouchability, didn't see it coming. Ethan went ahead and rewrote the progress report himself. He stripped out all the negative metrics, cherry-picked the successes, buried the failures in footnotes and appendices that no executive would ever read. He presented it to the C-suite on Friday, July 28th. And that's when he made his one fatal mistake. See, Ethan understood business. He understood people. He understood politics. But he didn't understand the data. Not really, because it wasn't his data. It was mine. During the presentation, CFO Thomas Park asked a technical question about one of the model assumptions, a question about how we'd calculated customer lifetime value in a specific segment. Ethan hesitated, just for a second. Then he gave an answer that sounded plausible, but was completely wrong. Thomas frowned. "That's not what you said in the original presentation. In June, you stated the LTV calculation used a different methodology." Ethan backpedaled, trying to reconcile the contradiction. He made it worse. His answer contradicted something else he'd said 5 slides earlier. CEO Rebecca Hartman was watching him carefully now. Diana Chen's expression had gone from neutral to sharp. "Ethan," Diana said, "can you walk us through the actual model architecture, the technical foundation?" He tried. He really did. He threw out terms he'd heard me use, talked about regression analysis and predictive modeling and confidence intervals. But he didn't know what any of it meant, not deeply, and it showed. The presentation ended awkwardly. No standing ovation this time, just polite nods and a few uncomfortable glances between executives. That afternoon, Diana pulled Maya aside. "I need you to tell me the truth about something," Diana said. "The client retention project, the original analysis, how much of that was actually Morgan's work?" Maya didn't hesitate. She told Diana everything. The 3 months I'd spent building the analysis from scratch, the night I'd sent Ethan my presentation, the meeting where he demanded we manipulate the progress report, my refusal. Diana's face went very still, very cold. "Send me Morgan, now." I walked into Diana's office expecting to be fired. This was it, the end. "Sit," she said. I sat. "Tell me about the client retention analysis," Diana said, "from the very beginning, every detail. And Morgan?" Her eyes were laser-focused. "Don't leave anything out." So I told her, all of it. The 3 months of work, the patterns I'd found, the presentation I'd built, sending it to Ethan for review the night before, the conversation I'd overheard outside her office, the executive meeting where he'd claimed it all as his own. I told her about the progress report, his demand to manipulate the data, my refusal, his threat. When I finished, Diana was quiet for a long moment. Do you still have the original files with metadata timestamps? I have every single one. Send them to me. Everything. Every model, every draft, every analysis. I want to see exactly when every file was created and by whom. I sent her everything. 63 files. Every single one created by me, timestamped weeks or months before Ethan's presentation. Every finding documented in my notes long before he'd claimed them as his insights. The metadata told the whole story. Diana handed it to HR. They launched a formal investigation, interviewed everyone on both teams, reviewed Ethan's previous projects, and a pattern emerged. A pattern of taking credit for other people's work. Usually junior employees, usually people who were too scared or too new to speak up. He'd been doing it for years, but subtly enough that no one had connected the dots. Until now. Until he'd gotten so arrogant, so confident in his untouchability that he stole someone's work, threatened them when that work didn't perform perfectly, and then couldn't answer basic technical questions about his own analysis. The investigation took 9 days. On August 8th at 9:15 a.m., security walked Ethan Blackwood out of Apex Strategic Solutions with a cardboard box containing the contents of his desk. I watched from my window. He didn't look up. That afternoon, Diana called me into her office. "I owe you an apology," she said. It might have been the first time I'd ever heard her say those words. I should have asked more questions. I should have paid closer attention. I didn't, and you paid the price for my failure. "Thank you," I said quietly. "The client success division is yours if you want it. You'll report directly to me, you'll have full authority to fix what's broken and scale what's working. And next month, you'll present the real progress report to the executive team. The honest one, the one that shows what's actually happening." "And the senior analyst position?" I asked, surprising myself with my boldness. Diana smiled. Actually smiled. "Effective immediately, along with a salary adjustment. We should have promoted you 2 months ago." That was 6 months ago. Today, I'm the Vice President of Client Success at Apex Strategic Solutions, the youngest VP in company history. The retention initiative, the real one, based on honest data and continuous improvement, has reduced client churn by 41%. We've identified 7 new service enhancements that have increased satisfaction scores across every customer segment. I presented those results to the board of directors last month. My presentation, my data, my name on every slide, my face on every screen. The board gave me a standing ovation. This time, I was the one standing at the front of the room. I heard from the grapevine that Ethan landed at a boutique consulting firm in San Francisco. I wonder if they know what kind of employee they hired. I wonder if he's learned anything. I wonder if there's another Alex Morgan at that company, working late nights on analysis that Ethan will claim as his own. I hope not, but I suspect yes. Because here's what I learned, and here's what I want you to take away from this story. Lesson 1. Document everything. Every email, every file, every timestamp. That metadata saved my career. If you're doing important work, make sure there's a clear record of who did what and when. This isn't paranoia, it's professional self-defense. Lesson 2. Trust your instincts. That moment when I hesitated before sending Ethan my presentation, that was my gut telling me something was wrong. I ignored it. Don't make my mistake. If something feels off about how someone is treating your work, it probably is. Lesson 3. People who steal credit always get sloppy eventually. Ethan got away with it for years because he was careful, but success made him arrogant. Arrogance made him careless, and carelessness was his downfall. If someone is taking your credit, be patient. They will eventually make a mistake. Lesson 4. Integrity matters more than fear. When I walked out of that meeting and refused to manipulate the data, I thought I was ending my career. Instead, I was saving it. Standing up for what's right, even when it's terrifying, is never the wrong choice. Lesson 5. Your silence protects the wrong people. I stayed quiet for weeks because I was scared, but my silence only protected Ethan and put other people at risk. When I finally spoke up, I discovered I wasn't his only victim. I was just the first one brave enough to say something. And here's the final lesson, the most important one. You are not powerless. When someone steals your work, every instinct screams at you to stay quiet, to keep your head down, to be grateful you still have a job. That instinct is designed to protect you from immediate danger, but it will destroy your career in the long run. You have more power than you think. The power to document, the power to speak up, the power to refuse to participate in dishonesty, the power to wait for the right moment and then act decisively. Ethan made one mistake, but I made a choice. I chose to document my work. I chose to refuse his demands. I chose to tell the truth even when I thought it would cost me everything. And that choice changed my life. If this story helped you, if it gave you the courage to stand up for yourself, or if you just want to hear more stories about navigating workplace challenges, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Your support means everything, and it helps me continue sharing stories that might help someone else who's going through what I went through. And remember, you are not powerless. You are not invisible. Your work matters. Your voice matters. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Thank you for listening.